Welcome to Thriving in the Digital Age, your go-to guide for navigating the ever-changing world of business, technology, and innovation. With your host, Joe Christ, a seasoned entrepreneur and tech enthusiast, here to connect you with the leaders shaping our future. Discover the secrets to thriving in the digital age. Each week, we'll dive into practical insights, cutting-edge strategies, and the latest trends to help your business not just survive, but truly thrive in today's digital world.
Hey everyone, and welcome to another exciting episode of Thriving in the Digital Age. Joining me today is Carson Hoffman. He's a 22-year-old CEO and founder of Kingsman Marketing, your secret service ad agency. Carson, thank you so much for joining us today. I'm sure the audience would love to know more about you. Could you tell us a little bit about yourself and what Kingsman Marketing does?
Yeah, absolutely. First off, thank you, Joe, for having me on today. I'm really glad to be here. So I actually started Kingsman Marketing my junior year of college when I was 20 years old. Right before I went back to school for my junior year, I decided that I didn't want to work for anybody else. Everybody else was getting internships or working other jobs, and I just knew that that wasn't for me. So what I did was did a bunch of research that summer and kind of figured, all right, like I'm going to do something in marketing because that was my major. And I decided to do Google Ads as a start. So I did Google Ads after I started my agency for about 6 months or so. And then once those 6 months were up, I kind of realized at the beginning, I'm not sure if I really liked doing the Google Ads part as much. The reporting, the analytics, and the research part wasn't as much my skill set. So what I did from then was kind of take 2 weeks off and was like, all right, what can I do that fits my skill set in marketing and advertising? That kind of co-aligns and everything would be a little bit more enjoyable for me. And that's when I came across marketing strategy and creative advertising. So then after those 2 weeks and kind of figuring that out, I dove into doing that more, and then kind of rebranded the agency to what you know now as Kingsman Marketing. And we from there have kind of grown into a full service advertising agency. So we offer paid search like Google. We offer paid social, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn, stuff like that for creative and strategic advertising that produces results for businesses. The main kind of people that we have figured to work with right now has been e-commerce agent or e-commerce companies. It kind of varies across niches. So we've done work with like outdoor brands. We've done work with lawn and landscaping companies, lawyers, and real estate agents. And I know those aren't in the out or the e-commerce space, but they were brands that we worked with at the beginning to kind of get our feet under us. Another e-commerce brands that we work with are like clothing and apparel. So yeah.
Nice, very interesting. So yeah, you do touch a lot of industries then.
Yeah, we've done a good job of kind of diversifying the target audiences that we work with. I would say our primary clients lie in e-commerce mainly. A lot of the product businesses in e-commerce. The reason we kind of focus a little bit more on outdoors brands is that's one of my hobbies is just being outdoors and hunting, fishing, going on hikes, biking, snowboarding and skiing is a big one too. So I kind of base it off of the interests that I have, and it makes it fun to work with those types of clients. But it's also one of those things where we're able to work with a bunch of different niches because we've had experience in those niches.
Yeah, and I imagine too, because you actually do have that knowledge of how their customers think, right? It probably makes it a lot easier for you to really tailor your approach. Be like, hey, I'm also your customer. Like this is the stuff I care about, and this is also what other people care about.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's another important thing of marketing is, a lot of marketing comes down to people try to market and advertise all of these different features and, more about themselves than the customer. And that's such a big issue today, which is why I originally got into advertising and marketing in addition to like not wanting to work for somebody else. Was I just saw this huge gap in the industry of people advertising and marketing the brand and themselves more than what they can do for their customer and their clients. And being able to think like a customer and a client is critical to be able to be successful in marketing. It's one of those things where psychology is such a big part of marketing that I think doesn't get talked about enough, and it doesn't get utilized enough either. And I think the more we can kind of transition our brains into thinking like clients and customers and tailoring that in our marketing and advertising, the more successful brands are going to be and the more success they're going to have in the long run.
That makes absolute sense. So obviously you have a really interesting perspective of this, right? It's like you understand the actual psychology aspect. Also, you have the perspective of a customer. So what challenges do you actually see, in the industries you serve when it comes to marketing?
Yeah, the biggest challenges that I have seen there's a few. I mean, the first one that's just glaring everybody in the face is being able to get the attention of viewers and customers and clients on social media, and then being able to keep that attention and turn it into sales or future clients and leads and stuff like that. A lot of what you see nowadays is all of this surface level marketing and this really diluted and boring stuff on content on social media, and it doesn't get attention because it doesn't talk to customers. It talks about themselves. A great kind of analogy that I like to use saying that I like to use is features tell, benefits sell. And there's a lot more psychology that goes into like effective marketing and advertising. But when you talk about yourself and the features of what you offer, you're not speaking to the customer and what they can kind of envision themselves benefiting from what you offer. So let's say you're a cleaning product. Let's use Dude Wipes, for example. They've done a great job of this. They don't sell, baby wipes or cleaning wipes. They sell a clean bottom. It's such a different sales tactic and marketing tactic to be able to use the benefits of what you offer and how you can help your customers either reach their goals and achieve their dreams, solve their problems, and how you can raise their status. And those are like three of the biggest ways that you can get people to have an affinity for your brand, really.
Right.
The more you can kind of touch on those 3 to 4 things of, how you're helping somebody, the more people are going to buy into what you have to sell them, and the more willing they're going to be able to buy. And I think that is one of the biggest challenges brands face, is being able to convey that message in the right way and the right context on the right platform, and with right formatting for each platform. Because a big thing too when businesses go about advertising is they don't format and correctly articulate their ads on each platform. Because when you think about it, when you go to LinkedIn, you're in a business mindset. You're not in a buying mindset, because that's more so on Instagram. Like Instagram, people go to consume media and kind of get news updates and stuff like that. And Facebook's fairly similar. There's mostly the discrepancy there is just like the age range and the target audiences for those platforms. And then when you're on TikTok, you're consuming more so of just brainless content. You want to be entertained. You want to have a laugh. You want something to just make you feel good for that dopamine rush. And that's another big gap that I see in the industry, is because a lot of people don't tailor their advertisements to different platforms. And that's kind of why we are here, is to close both of those gaps and serve as that agency that can provide the right advertisements in the right place in the right context.
You brought up something that I certainly see myself, and certainly I've done myself, right? It's repurposing content over different platforms, right? But not actually changing the messaging.
Yeah.
Right. I do it myself. I know it's a very lazy approach sometimes, but yeah, that's a good point though, right? Where it's obviously, if it's LinkedIn, it's very business, and LinkedIn is really king when it comes to B2B selling. But if you're trying to make entertaining content, putting over TikTok, you really can't share the same message. Yeah. And that is something really, really important that a lot of people do miss, because obviously, especially if you're a startup and you don't have a lot of manpower and definitely don't have a lot of time, you try to find shortcuts, but really that does sound detrimental.
Yeah. And it absolutely is too. The biggest thing in terms of repurposing that content and using it on other platforms is changing not only just the creative and the formatting of it, but also the copy you're using and the call to actions you're using. Because when you're using LinkedIn, the call to action is going to be different, or it should be different than when you're on TikTok. Because if you're on LinkedIn, you'd rather somebody go check out your profile and schedule a call with you to learn more. Or if you're on TikTok, maybe you want them to go buy a product or use TikTok Shop. So there's different call to actions that need to be used in different contexts with different formats on different platforms for different people. And there's a lot of moving parts in marketing and advertising that I think people don't take into account. And there's so many little things that it's not a hack to use it. It's just context is king. And that applies when you're talking to people like we're doing now. That applies when you have a photo on Instagram or a video on TikTok, and really being able to advertise in the context that you're in is huge. And I think that is like another thing that people have to be more aware of, especially as we're in this attention-based economy, is because there is no way you're going to be able to get somebody's attention on TikTok for a post that's meant for LinkedIn. It just doesn't happen.
Imagine too, when people are also on that platform, they're in a different mindset as well.
Yeah. Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
Yeah, if you saw a very like long clip on TikTok talking about something that's like not terribly interesting, and you're just like, okay, whatever, and you just keep moving, right? You don't really retain it. But if it's like you go in there, like the LinkedIn, you're like, okay, well, this is kind of cool, and I can read this because I'm surfing LinkedIn right now. I'm looking at ads. I'm like, okay, that is actually kind of interesting. I can read there because I'm already in the mindset saying, hey, I'm business focused today, or I'm business focused like in these next few moments where I'm able to retain this because I'm going to already come in with the idea of like I'm looking for either someone to help me because there are people out there, or I'm just surfing and I don't know if I'm actually looking for any help, but my brain is already adjusted to now like, hey, this is more business based as opposed to I'm trying to look at something funny.
Yeah, 100%. And that's something that everybody has to keep in mind too. And another big thing that has kind of changed in the last 5 years in terms of marketing and advertising on social platforms is TikTok's introduction of interest-led content distribution. So before TikTok, everything on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, whatever was mostly it was who you followed. It was relevancy content distributed to the user of who they follow. So if you're going on YouTube or Instagram, it's going to be, if you follow sports accounts, it's going to be mostly ESPN and Sports Center and, accounts like that. But now with the introduction of TikTok, a lot of these social platforms are moving into interest-led graphs for the distribution of the content. And so being able to now you're able to get your message to more people more easily if you do it right. So the biggest thing in advertising and marketing with this is addressing people's problems and needs when you have a problem to solve for them, and also directly targeting who you want to target. So if you're making a TikTok video now and you address single moms in Missouri for childcare, that's going to be distributed more to that audience. And the better the content is, the more it's going to get pushed to that audience. And the other thing too that comes with back to repurposing content is seeing how those ads or organic posts perform, and then creating different posts and ads on top of that to be able to expand your reach and your target audience for effectiveness. And I think that is something that a lot of brands and businesses have not realized yet, is this more attention-led or interest-led distribution of content and how that can help advertising. So let's say that you put out a post for your clothing company, and it was a video that was kind of showcasing who you are, what you're about, and why you do what you do, and the message behind your clothing. And let's say it did really well. What you could do then is kind of go off on tangents about each part, like who you are and where you're from, why the brand is what it is, and give more detailed introductions And then you can also run an ad from that video and expand your reach to a broader sense of people because you already know it's done well. And that's kind of like the strategic organic content as paid advertising. And that's something that we've kind of focused on now as well. The more we grow and the more we work with and have these conversations with people in the industry is like, okay, let's create 10 pieces of content for this brand and we're going to distribute them across these 10 days. This is what we're going to have for the post. And then depending on what does well, we'll use that as our next advertisement and create different forms of it because it's already been social proof. We already know it's going to do well and we already know that it's going to reach the right people. And I think in advertising now, that should be a lot of people's approach is grinding on social and seeing what works and running what works as ads.
No, I think that's a great idea. You know, on the topic of like solutioning, right? So a lot of what I'm hearing does make a ton of sense, but for those who are obviously starting or just struggling with their marketing, like what's a good approach for them to really just start with, right? Because I mean, everybody's always asking, is like, what do I do first?
Yeah.
Right? Because
Yeah.
if you don't know marketing, you don't know marketing, and that's fine. But obviously, there's answers out there. So, what would you tell the audience, like if they were starting from zero, what first steps should we be taking?
Yeah, that's a great question because it's a lot of it's something that everyone can relate to at one point in their life if they're starting a business. And the number one piece of advice I would have is to get on organic social across the board and put out as much content as you can across all these platforms and see what works and what sticks. You're going to learn a lot more about not only the content that works, but also the people that you are resonating with. The comment section is something that's greatly overlooked in terms of figuring out who you want to target and who you are targeting. It's also going to give you more content ideas because people are going to tell you what they like, don't like, or want to hear or not hear. Organic social is also the easiest way to make it nowadays in terms of growing your business and having it get traction. Best part about it is it's free. The only thing it's going to cost you is your time and effort. And if you don't want to put in any money other than just using your phone right in front of you, you don't have to. There's a bunch of free apps nowadays that you can go on and edit, like CapCut. You can use Canva for posts. Like, there's so many different ways to go about social media marketing and a content aspect of organic social, and it's free. Like, there's no reason not to be putting out content on social media every single day. It's free and it's the easiest way to get noticed.
Yeah, it brings up a really interesting thing too. So you mentioned before the attention economy,
Yeah.
right? Love that phrase, by the way.
Thank you.
I really do imagine the game has changed too with how digitized the entire world has gotten, right?
Yeah.
Obviously, back in the day, it was like, hey, what's your SEO like? What are you doing? What's your ranking on Google? But with AI really just producing so much content out there, it really did drown out a lot of businesses.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So I really do understand that, hey, having social media and really building your brand in a very one to many, but it does feel very one-to-one sometimes.
Yeah.
Through content creation, whether it's through Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, or what have you, TikTok, right? I and correct me if I'm wrong, like people do feel more connected to the businesses that way.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And it's a way for them to engage with the brand and really get to feel like they're a part of a community. Going back to marketing psychology, and such a big part of humans' existence is being a part of a community and a tribe and having that kind of collectiveness to reach towards a certain goal, or in this sense, like being a part of a community to feel like you're a part of a certain group of status. Like, it's people who wear Louis Vuitton who like the feeling of having higher status. They like to feel like they're a part of that community. Same goes with like a Rolex status or, Rolls Royce. But then you also have people who are joining different statuses in terms of baby products. Like, they're joining the status of being parents. So they want brands that are going to make them look good as parents. There's a bunch of different ways to go about being a part of a community and building your brand online. And again, organic social is the best way to do it.
Wise words, indeed. And the one thing too, I've noticed people, and especially the younger community, not folks like me, but it's getting out there and actually really showing your personality as well, right?
Yeah.
And it makes you much more relatable, right? People, I can't really remember who told me this, but people don't buy from companies; they buy from people,
Yep.
right? And actually having your personal brand really connected to your company's brand really does shine through, right? There's a lot of big names out there that I can name them, but I can't name the companies they own. But I know
Yeah.
if they have a company, it's a good product because they're good, right?
Yeah.
They care, and their personal brand carries so much weight that it really does increase their authority.
Yeah, 100%. And having a personal brand for, if you're the CEO of your company or the founder, owner, whatever, your highest title is in the company, having a personal brand to couple with your business is huge. I mean, that is why I started posting on LinkedIn on January 1st of this year, was because I knew that in order to effectively grow the company and eventually get people coming to us, I had to be the one to put out content to get myself noticed, to be able to get the company noticed. And the other thing that I saw this from, I believe, Jimmy Kim from Senlane, is he was talking about his personal brand on LinkedIn and how vital it is nowadays to not just have the founder and CEO and the top guy or the top girl at the company have a personal brand, but also the employees underneath, because that's more people that you're getting to have a reputation who will then want to come to your company. So it's just increasing the personal brands of everybody that works for the business to be able to benefit the business and benefit each other. And I think that also it goes back to creating a community within your own company culture and being able to use everybody effectively to get on these social platforms and build the brand and provide free value to people. That's one of the other big things nowadays, is just providing free value.
Yeah, that absolutely makes sense. So that brings up a really interesting question too. Now, so as I mentioned before, right, it was maybe 5-10 years ago it was really just focused on like SEO and bringing people to the websites and really gaming that, and now it's really it's personal brand. So as we progress right in the digital age and technology gets more sophisticated and we can do a lot more things, how do you see marketing in the future when it comes like advertisements and really doing any of this?
Yeah, that's a great question, because I actually got asked this yesterday, and it's my answer is kind of funny, because a lot of the talk now is around AI and where AI is going to be, and not being able to trust ads or marketing from brands because you won't know if it's real. I think that is going to be a way that the marketing industry progresses towards, is using AI in marketing more. Um, but the other problem that's faced with that is not knowing if a brand is legitimately advertising this product or this person. Something I do love that Meta has done to kind of cope with that is the necessary disclosure of using AI in an advertisement or not. And that's been huge for people to kind of trust ads more if they see that there is AI used. I also think a lot of brands are going to need to move towards a personal brand on social media for not just themselves, but for the company, like we just talked about. I think it gives you more of a personal feel from top to bottom, but also different people in the company have different messages and different personalities. So when, let's say I am looking at the CEO of Nike right now, and I'm not really, I don't really resonate with his messages as much as I do the CMO. Those, if both of them have brands, I'm still going to like Nike because I like the CMO and I like what he has to say. I think that is where marketing is going to need to shift to in order to gain more trust from people and also be able to increase the validity and the social proof and credibility of the consumers in the consumers' minds of businesses.
That's a really good point, where it's you really do have to try harder to connect because there is a lot of noise, and
Yeah.
that's the unfortunate fact of how much technology we're actually leveraging to create content is the amount of noise that people actually have to get like sift through in order to find that that product. But really it's harder for the companies,
Yeah.
right? Because they have to really tailor their messaging, and they can't really take shortcuts.
Oh,
Where
yeah.
it's like, hey, we'll just use AI to generate this. It's like, well, AI will help you, but it's
Yeah.
not going to solve your problems. You have to really define your process and understand really what you're trying to do here, and then use AI to leverage it as opposed to having just AI just fix it for you. And I do see
100%.
a lot of companies getting very dependent on that, where they're saying, we have this AI tool, we'll just use it. And then as a result, because they don't have a well-defined process, what they're putting out doesn't reach anybody.
Yeah. Well, and going off of that too, you brought up a great point is, you can't just use AI now to do everything for you in terms of like putting out marketing and advertising, because people know when it's not a real person. They know the language, they know, the formatting. Like there is a human intuition behind knowing marketing or knowing what people are saying versus what a robot's saying. And I think right now, especially being able to differentiate that as a brand and maybe using AI to help you is something that brands should, I encourage them to do and explore, because it helps, with the creative process or with strategic processes and stuff like that. But being able to edit it and make it feel human is a vital aspect in order to gain the trust of people and also sound like a real human.
It's interesting you say that, trying to make it sound human. So I've been doing a little research myself into this lately. So the two components that actually do make AI sound human, or the humanize AI, it's perplexity and burstiness, right? Human beings do not talk like AI. Typically, when AI generates something, it's very perfect,
Yeah.
right? It's everything is it's a well written argument,
Yeah.
and everything is evenly done. But
Yep.
with human beings, when we actually speak, we may not realize this. A lot of our ideas actually just put together, and then we have fluff, and then ideas come together, and then we have fluff, right?
Yeah.
And that's how you can tell a human's actually writing it, right?
Yeah.
And there's plenty of tools out there that I even use myself, that I actually use to detect AI to see, is this AI generated content? And if I'm sending out content that looks like it's just written by a machine, and it doesn't actually really connect on an emotional level to somebody, then I know it's really not going to make the impact I want.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. It's funny too that you bring that up. So earlier in, I believe, February of this year, I did a little bit of my own experiment on LinkedIn. So I a couple times, what I would do is I would put out a post that I wrote by myself, with my own brain, and then I'd write one with AI to compare and see how things were doing. And I'll tell you this, the ones that I would write on my own would not only get more impressions and engagement, they'd get more likes and they'd get more people to talk to me through DM. But the ones that were written with AI, less reach, less engagement, less people talking about them. And it's crazy because it just shows how how intuitive humans are and how good they are at reading, reading the room and reading what they're consuming.
That's a really good point, right? If especially as a new business, when you're really trying to reach people, though it may seem like a convenient shortcut, it really is hurting you. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And it doesn't, the problem with AI too is it feels like it's talking to you and not with you. Like it feels less like a conversation with somebody. And it lacks the human aspect of the voice and the tone and being able to kind of hear it in your head when you're reading it. But the other thing too is it doesn't feel authentic. I think there's something about that people can kind of pick up on in content and marketing, is it lacks authenticity. And that's something that, people really respond to in marketing and advertising, is the authenticity aspect of the brand or the person behind it and the product. Like authenticity is just what gets people to connect and feel like they're a part of that community.
That's a amazing point, and it's that is the goal, right? Is to connect, and I imagine people are because they're so tired of it at this point, right? Because it's like you can tell, and people really, when they see that, like, it's an abnormality now. It's like, oh, this is a real person, and I can interact with this, and I want to interact with it now, and I don't
Yeah,
want to interact with machines, because machines don't feel the way we feel.
exactly. Yeah, and kind of going off of that is people people like to feel like they're being talked to, not
Mm-hmm.
just talked at, or like they're, reading something that does nothing to do with them. We like the personalization, we like the one-to-one feeling. And there's kind of this aspect that of marketing that kind of goes into this of again, back to psychology. People want to feel special. They want to feel like you're just speaking to them. And the more you can do that through your marketing, the more success you're going to have. But with AI, it's a little bit harder to personalize it because it doesn't feel as genuine and as authentic.
So Carson, we are reaching time, and I did want to ask you something. I'm sure the audience will love to hear this too. You clearly know a lot when it comes to the marketing space and technology and what the future looks like. But if there's anything you could tell the audience, right, and any parting advice, what would you like us to know?
I would say that if you are scared to start, don't be, because it's way worse in your head than it is in reality. And speaking from experience, you will get much more support than you will hate. And going off of that, if you're going to start from zero and start marketing and start advertising, start on organic social. Pick one platform that you want to absolutely crush, and then post on the other ones if you don't have the time, and just keep it a little bit. You can keep it similar, but try to change it up a little bit. But really just attack organic social. There's no excuse not to, because it's free. It's only going to take up your time and your effort. And if you're starting from zero, those are the only things that you really have to give.
Well said. Absolutely well said. Boy, Carson, thank you so much for joining us today, and to the audience out there, really hope you appreciate the show. Again, Carson Hoffman, he is the CEO and founder of Kingsman Marketing. Love the show. I learned a lot myself. I feel a little more competent and capable of my marketing approach now. I hope those out there do as well. Those listening to our show, join us next week for another very exciting episode of Thriving in the Digital Age. Thank you so much for coming out.
Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Thriving in the Digital Age. We hope today's episode gave you some great tips for navigating and rocking the digital world. Remember to hit subscribe for more awesome tips, strategies, and expert talks on thriving in the digital age. Stay connected, stay informed, and keep on thriving.